Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be upon you all and welcome to the channel. In this video we will cover the list interface, which is part of the collections framework. As you can see here, it contains methods, similar methods to what we have designed in the dynamic array lectures. So this is part of the framework that was prepared for software developers. And before we begin, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين وارض اللهم عنا معهم أجمعين اللهم آمين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. We begin in the name of Allah, the most merciful in this life and in the hereafter, and we thank Him for all of His blessings that He has bestowed upon us, for they are innumerable, and we pray that we follow in the footsteps of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his fellow companions. Amen. We also ask for prayers and blessings to be bestowed upon Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family, as they were bestowed upon Prophet Ibrahim, peace be upon him, and his family. Now I would like to highlight the purpose of a framework, and that is convenience. You can create your own list if you would like. However, it would be tedious and inconvenient. It is what is most efficient at the workplace, at least, is that you use a framework that was already prepared for you. Unless you are part of the team that is designing the framework, that is a different story. But it is always best to use the framework that has been designed for you, whether by a first party or a third party. Some people find it rather offensive to use prepared frameworks. I honestly do not know why. As Prophet Muhammad said, يَسِّرُوا وَلَا تُعَسِّرُوا. Create convenience, do not hinder or challenge people. If you can make a task easier, do so, do not make it harder. So the existence of the Java Collections framework is to create a convenience for you. Instead of designing your own list, designing your own dynamic arrays, you can simply use what was provided for you by the Java team. Now, firstly, a list is a collection. But what differentiates it from another collection is that it is an ordered or a sequential collection. If you wish to store items sequentially in a list, you would resort to the list interface. There are other methods, or I should not say methods, other members of the collections framework that allow you to store data in other structures, such as hashes or maps, and so on and so forth. So it would depend on your need. If you wish to store particular variables or objects in a list in an ordinal manner, obviously you would use the list interface. Well, not technically the list interface, but you can use its subclasses. In addition to that, unlike sets are another member of the collections framework, which we will not cover yet, but later bi'idhnillah and God willing. Lists typically allow duplicate items. So you can have multiple, elements. You can have multiple elements within a list that are duplicates. And as you can see here, allow pairs of elements E1 and E2 such that E1 does equal E2. But how would a list be able to differentiate between object 1 and object 2 if they are both equal? Well, it should be here. I do not see it. Typically blah 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 implement blah blah blah. Okay, I honestly cannot see it. If you have spotted it, then you are able to catch it, but I honestly do not see it. Maybe if I can control F. No, it is not there. Okay, I honestly do not know where it is, and I will teach you how to perform this later on as part of the Java documentation, بإذن and God willing. Basically, what it uses, what any list uses to differentiate between object A and object 1 and object 2, provided that they are the same object, would be the index. So lists rely heavily on the index of an object. So if object 1 is at index 1 and object 2 is at index 5 and they are both equal, the list can differentiate between the two objects through the indices or indexes 1 and 5. So it is incredibly important to be aware that lists rely heavily on the index of an object or an element. I do not want to say an object because, well, the collections framework uses reference data types, so it would be objects regardless. Yeah, that is true. And they also allow for null elements, as you have seen in the dynamic array. It is similar to that, except that the dynamic array still had a static size, but with collections, as we have mentioned, they are able to change their size dynamically. So they can allow null elements as well. Feel free to read further if you would like to learn more about the list interface. We will come to the iterator here. As the name implies, it allows you to iterate through a list in a similar fashion to the for loop, but with slight differences. We will cover that later, bi'idhnillah and God willing. Now, returning here, there are 4, if you would like to consider them as subclasses of a list. Normally with an interface, people tend to avoid a subclass because an interface is implemented, it is not inherited. I think of it as a subclass because you can use polymorphism with an interface and its subclasses. So that is why I consider them subclasses. We have 4 types, if you would like to call them, 4 types of lists. Firstly, we have the array list, which we will focus on briefly before we continue with its sub-series later on. But I would just like to cover at least 1 or 2 introductory lectures for array lists so that we can return to generics. The second list we have is called linked list. We will see the differences between an array list and a linked list later on, inshallah. They are similar to one another, but not the same. Then we have vectors, which I believe have been deprecated, so I do not think anyone uses them anymore. And finally, we have the stack. It has the same name as the data engine stack, which is used to store variables, as we have mentioned before, but we mentioned so briefly. We did not tackle stack fully. I am waiting for the architectural portion, bi'idhnillah and God willing. But the reason that data engine is known as a stack is because it functions as this stack, hence why it is also called a stack. We will cover that later on, bi'idhnillah and God willing. And you may have noticed in the previous lecture and in this lecture that we are interacting with generics. And collection here is also a generic, which means that you will only be using reference data types, as we have covered in generics. You will be unable to use primitive data types. So you will only be able to use reference data types, which includes wrapper classes. And that is it for this lecture. I hope this recording was helpful and beneficial to you all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Be safe, take care, and peace be upon you all. والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد